Alright, making a video. Probably shouldn't, but I must. So many things, actually. You could make a video about every single stupid moronic comment in every single sentence or phrase in it because they're all just so fucking stupid. Ugh. So anyway, this Brandon Kratz guy isn't okay, blah blah blah. Yeah. So he says something here about proving something. I mean, a bunch of, I can't prove some important stuff that I know, and I like it that way for the most part. First, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. I like that I can't prove something. Why would you like that? I mean, I just can't see any circumstance where it's good not to be certain or be able to establish something you understand and be able to communicate to somebody else. And that's all really proving is. I mean, proving is just arguing. Because evidence doesn't really mean anything without a context, right? I mean, there could be a guy in a suit that looks like an alien, and he could stand in my yard, and so then I'd have sort of evidence of aliens, but yeah, you'd have to really see it from the behind so you can see the zipper on his suit or something. The evidence has to have a context, and the context has to explain why, no, this is a real alien. Because if there's some other evidence that makes it more likely it's a real alien, like there's a spaceship over there and it's radioactive, and something like that. But it's really just an argument. That's all proof is. So you're saying I can't really argue in defense of what you know? Well, that's lame. Then you probably shouldn't know it. So anyway, that's a technical point, but it's just part of this whole bullshit, of distortion and perversion, and this simplistic and the pigeonholing, the whole bullshit is just so inadequate as a conversation about anything. So there's just so many assholes. I mean, Ian Crossland made another video just saying something like, well, the Google guys are okay, everything's okay, it's fine. And it's like that other putz did make his videos public, and I haven't listened to them yet. I just couldn't give a shit, because these people have no clue about anything, right? This guy asshole gets into the argument because I point out that GoDaddy sucks. And that's the truth I'm arguing in defense of. And these assholes show up and say, well, go use this, or go do this, or go... That's not the subject of the video. The subject of the video is whether or not GoDaddy sucks, you asshole. And the appropriate response would be, yes, GoDaddy absolutely sucks, blah, 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 blah. But it wouldn't be, oh, it doesn't matter that it sucks. No, it does matter that it sucks. It matters that Google is the #1 marketing company in the universe. And we've allowed it to index the internet. That matters. That's a fact that's really fucking important. And all you assholes using your ad blocker and everything else, how does that solve any problem, you stupid cunts? Don't you understand that the company that's paying Google for the ads on the page, that they have to pay for those ads by selling product? I mean, it's back to like the credit card cash argument. It really didn't matter if you used cash, because you weren't going to get a discount for using cash. And the point is it doesn't matter whether you think you're immune somehow to credit cards. The implications of them, the fact that you will pay for it whether you like it or not, is just a fact. And we're paying, okay, and every time we buy something, we're paying for the ads on Google. That's what we're doing. That's built into the price of the products, you fucking dumb cunts. And so anyway, but they're always defending these capitalist fucking rich cunts. And they keep pretending that this money doesn't come from somewhere, that the rich get rich because they grow money trees. And they're hugely productive because, look, they grow all those money trees that just make money. And somehow that doesn't come out of your fucking pocket, you idiot. Ugh. If it's in their pocket, it's not in your pocket. You can't figure that much out? But no, because you believe it came from nowhere. It was created by them. They made the wealth. No, they didn't. They took it. So anyway, that gets to Antikantavad, who's doing this whole preposterous rationalization of how The rich aren't doing anything. They're harmless, meaningless. They're not even having any fun, and it's no fun being. I could have been rich. He says that. I could have chosen to be a trillionaire. Oh, you could have chosen to, as most of them need to, inherit $100 million worth of New York real estate and then just do compound interest for 45 years and have $10 billion like Donald Trump. Donald Trump could have been a complete asshole, done absolutely nothing, just sat there like a little Hilton whore on his mountain of equity and done nothing and just accepted the 10% increase every year in the value of his surplus and been a billionaire. That's the truth. That's the fucking truth. So why isn't that fact mean anything to you creeps? You fucking asswipes. You losing fucking insane turd balls. That should be like proof enough. Just looking at what compound interest does to surplus over time should be enough to get into your fucking creepy little dopey heads. That's the conspiracy. That's the game that we're being played, and that somehow, again, it's a conspiracy like slavery was a conspiracy, right? I mean, it wasn't a big secret. It certainly was talked about in, outside the earshot of the the victims. But yeah, not much of a conspiracy. See how else to say it. Obviously because of popular acceptance, mostly, by the people who had the guns and the chains, and could threaten your wife and kids, yeah, and extort you to play along. All right, and so yeah, so in that sense, it's not a conspiracy, but it's just clearly just as malicious. The gun is still being pointed. The extortion is still just as real. This isn't harmless. It's, but anyway, so his whole description is just based on some idea that somehow there's no advantage. The advantages to being rich are just crass and useless, because the whole society is somehow structured on crass and useless. And so this is an asshole who just had a kid, and you're just saying, there's a line in here, and you're just saying, well, if you think that that's the way the world is, why did you birth a child into it? What do you think your kid's going to be? You think he's not going to be food for that system? You don't think he's going to just get eaten up in it too? I mean, it's just kind of ludicrous. But, he mixes metaphors. I mean, he's trying to diminish this idea of privilege. And so he uses comparisons like, where he's supposed to be analogizing the advantages of the hierarchy, and then he starts comparing sheep to wolves instead of alpha sheep to beta sheep, which is the real comparison. The real comparison is, as you look throughout nature, there's huge advantages to being being a princess. If you're an ant, being a princess is kick ass. No work, just comfort and the best food, the best air, the best temperature, the best everything for you. And somehow he thinks that's not meaningful. And we know it's incredibly meaningful. Not working is incredibly meaningful. I mean, to not recognize that having the privilege of not having to work is, just a goddamn huge privilege. It gives you time to think and do other things. I would never have been able to make these arguments I'm making if it wasn't for the negative circumstance of me being in many ways crippled, because it's only through that. It's almost like you can make the argument that the wheelchair guy, the physicist, might not have been as good a physicist, even though I think he's a shitty physicist, if he wasn't crippled, because yeah, it forces you to use attributes. But I'm just saying that obviously being rich gives you the luxury of deciding what it is you're going to be. You certainly have every choice, where being poor means you have very few choices. Your destiny is going to end up in, whether you're a pot washer or a bottle washer, but you're going to be washing something. So anyway, it's just horrible tripe. So, and it's just arguing as if they don't take anything, and they do. They take gluttony. they impose a a grotesque gluttony on us, and they serve that up to us as an economic system of leftover crumbs for the masses. Let them eat cake. It's real. That fact of what monarchy, and that's what we live in, monarchy. And it's just so funny that people don't recognize it as monarchy. When they sit there and they make arguments as in defense of inheritance, what are they defending? A birthright. They're defending monarchy. Ugh, this is so disgusting. Alright, so, you know, I don't know how specific somebody's conspiracy argument is that he's trying to argue against, but clearly the conspiracy is in a form where there's a system in place and they don't provide anything better. So they could, like somebody like Bill Gates, if he took his money and made a not-for-profit search engine to compete with Google, he could do that. He could make everything open source. He could create mechanisms of infrastructure that are self-sustaining and only the workers profit, nobody else. The people actually making a contribution, no owners to suck value out of it. He could provide us that. He could give us that. He doesn't, but he doesn't. What they give us is Obama, you know, progressiveness, which is let's put solar panels on roofs, which is right off the bat 50% inefficient, and let's have them all as individual units owned individually, so they all have to be metered individually, and they all have to have the technology to push and pull the electricity, which again it makes them probably another 30% inefficient. So you're probably up to 70 or 80% inefficient. So let's do it the 70% inefficient way so capitalists can make money. Let's not do it the rational way. Let's not have Bill Gates or somebody put up the money to put up a farm of solar panels and allow an entire community to pay for it and pay 70% less for their electricity. Get exactly the same value, just pay 70% less. But we're not going to be given that by these liars and scum. Now, that's a kind of a conspiracy, a kind of the elitists, the haves, are basically saying we're not going to give the have-nots an opportunity to escape our have-ness. We're going to force them to keep paying us interest. We're going to keep forcing them to respect our ownership. We're not going to free them, take the chains off. And that's the conspiracy, not to remove the chains. Not to help remove the chains. So it's a conspiracy of neglect, not an overt conspiracy. Yes, they didn't inherit, they didn't create, they didn't these people aren't the original, they didn't come up with the idea of slavery. So they didn't manufacture the slave boat or the chains or the whips. They just inherited them, but they're perfectly willing to keep using them. And that's the conspiracy of complicity, the complicity with the original conspirators, you could argue, who did perpetrate the culture we've inherited. All right. I mean, you just can't talk. I mean, I can't say too much about it. Just why it doesn't resonate with people that privilege should be earned, and that falling out of vaginas is not earning. I mean, again, it's this element of proof. How can I contextualize the fact that falling out of a vagina is not earning in any way to make that not understandable as, yes, that's absolutely true. Falling out of a vagina is not earning. It really shouldn't matter. What your daddy is shouldn't matter about what you're going to be, in a sense. We shouldn't be inheriting our position in the world. If my father was a great something or other, I shouldn't be given all the privileges of being a great something or other when I wasn't. And certainly my grandchildren shouldn't. I mean, my children. If there's never a, you know, I mean, see, this is part of the thing, is that this evidence to me, the proof of the corruption and evil of this system, it was quite obvious to me. I mean, compelling. this is a dangerous thing, life, and it's a hugely risky thing, very difficult to control. No way, you don't get much of that. You know, how could, I just don't know how anybody could contemplate the idea of having kids without contemplating the idea, well, what if this happens? What if, you know, start doing the what ifing. And as soon as you start doing a little bit of that what ifing, you just find out that there's horrible traps just waiting for you. Horrible ones where there's no solution, there's no fixing except to, you know, bite your fingers off or something. You know, hysterical, I can't take it anymore. In my opinion, I just don't, you know, but I guess you assholes, you sadistic fucking masochists and sadistic lunatics, really just don't give a shit. That's the bottom line. Oh, my kid died, so what? Who cares? Creeps. Anyway. So something pie. That would have been good if I could remember what that is. Yeah, it was probably a very interesting, you know. But anyway, screwed your sponsor price. Okay, pray for. Let's see, won't you will pray for. I don't know. Damn. Screw your setup AP. Yeah, sorry, I really should learn how to write more carefully. Yes. Okay, but it's in the open, I guess, is the, you know, and it's a trap and stuff like that. So anyway, we'll play some of his video. Sorry, I didn't do as good a job with my notes as I wish to, but it's the way it goes sometimes. But I mean, this is really the whole. I mean, the truth isn't complicated. It really isn't. The truth of our lives and the mechanisms that have been developed over time, and the flaws, fundamental huge flaws in those systems, that, I mean, even if you just can't let go of the word capitalism, you really have to understand that it has to be tinkered with. That there is no invisible hand that fixes the inefficiencies. And there's huge inefficiencies. I mean, I can just go through like the Walmart or even the Amazon example. I mean, Amazon destroyed a lot of retail business because it had unlimited debt. It could just somehow, the Amazon guy, whatever his name was just able to keep getting people to pour more money into this business that was not making any money. So Amazon didn't make any money for like a decade. But because it did do that, it drove everybody else out of business, essentially, because everybody else didn't have the ability to lose money for 10 years. I mean, you got to understand that mechanisms like that in capitalism make it non-functional. If somebody can, you know, use a monopoly tactic to destroy the competition, you got to understand that that's very expensive. That destroying the competition, everybody will have to pay for that in the end. You have to pay for those buildings that are vacant. Consumers have to pay for them. It doesn't get paid for by nobody. The money didn't come from nowhere, and when you see it rotting somewhere, you have to understand that all that labor was wasted, and it diminished all of the productivity of our entire social system was diminished because we couldn't find better use for a building, for example, or something, than to leave it empty. I mean, you know, people still just don't get it. They think it's a productive job gold-plating toilets for the rich. They think that's productive. They think that somehow that work makes the world a better place. And it doesn't.
Anything out of, as I say, putting society through the olive press and squeezing. All that they get is the distilled essence of the garbage that consumer capitalism feeds us anyways.
Right. So they're saying that the pure olive oil, the virgin olive oil that the rich live in, is somehow not better oil, and it is. I mean, he's saying it's basically, well, it's just purified and rarefied, and well, yeah, that's called better, asshole. It's just silly to say, like, look, psychologically, it cannot matter. But I'm just saying, as a practical matter, poverty doesn't just eat into your psyche, it eats into your physical health and your ability to actually do something else. Like I said, you're not going to be able to acquire a medical degree if you have to spend 12 hours a day washing dishes, because you just can't multitask that way. You can't work hard at two different jobs.
If you don't believe that materialism and consumerism really is of any fundamental value, then
Well, I mean, it's just a silly generalization. What, the consumerism, the style we're stuck in? Yes, that's of no value. But yes, mass production is of value. Having machines do work is very valuable. There's lots of aspects of consumerism that are very valuable. Yeah, there's just the liars and the crooks and the shyster part of it we could do without. The consumerism that's all about how shiny it is, how the superficial book cover part of consumerism, yeah, that's the part we can live without. The Happy Meal, that kind of crap. The unhealthy, you will die younger meal, as it should be described.
what good does it do you to excel at it? Again,
Well, again, what good does it do you? You just keep saying this as if there's no advantage, once again, to eating the best food, having the best air, and the most comfortable cushions to sit on, to have people to take care of all your little anything you need, manicure you, that somehow there's nothing useful in that it doesn't give your mind the capacity to do bigger and better things.
to sort of say, well, they're just plain evil. That's why. That's the problem with this kind of...
No, they're just plain selfish, and they're lying to themselves, pretending that they're not the gluttonous pigs they are. But even like I said, nobody's accounting for their gluttony. Nobody's accounting for the simple truth that some simple luxury, I do it all the time, so even having a cigarette, instead of having this cigarette, you know, the money could go to a much better purpose in the world, because there's much need in the world that can be fixed by the 50 cents that these things cost now. And that's a truth. And so I'm just saying, what evidence do I need to provide for that truth? So that's the crime. But obviously the poor person is committing less of the crime than the rich. And their gluttony is so insane. I mean, it's like a holocaust of disease and sickness that their lifestyle costs. The average debutante bitch who, you know, marries some guy with some money, you know, and she has, you know, you hear the divorce papers in the celebrity trial or something, and the bitch needs like $3 million a year just to pay her basic expenses. Like what?
Conspiracy thinking, it always ends up having something of a scapegoat built right into it.
Well, so he just wants to keep saying that this is all some sort of like, why are you blaming the thing that's the problem? And, you know, it's scapegoating to say it's a huge problem to have the resource inequity that we have in our system, and that this is, it exists because they won't give us something better. And they're the only ones that really have the power to break our chains. The owners are the only ones who really have the power to set the slaves free.
So I don't really think that the people who are running society through lies or through manipulation or subterfuge or anything like that, assuming that that this is what's happening, really are getting much of an advantage that's denied the rest of us. They're just getting...
Yeah, it's just silly. They're just getting more of the same shit. Work that's unrewarding and physically taxing and mentally exhausting.
Getting more of the junk that we get. They're just getting more of the rubbish that the people at the bottom...
Right, so I'm just saying the rubbish of leisure. Leisure is rubbish. Having the leisure to expand your mind or, you know, cut your consciousness a sensual break. Yeah, Right, that's rubbish.
Yeah, that's all. Their share is bigger, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
It really isn't. So I'm just saying, so he's making an argument in attempting to prove some kind of point, and so he's using as evidence for his argument in here, he's saying that this is a piece of evidence. It's the same. Being rich and being so poor you spend your whole day picking through garbage on a mound of garbage is the same thing. I don't think the two are really anywhere close to being sane.
So I don't really think that conspiracy theorizing of this kind of magnitude really explains our civilization.
I don't think you really explained you didn't quote anything from Anti-Bullshit Man or The Conversation, so there's no way for us to get any kind of grasp of exactly what kind of hysterical conspiracy theory they're portraying. But I have my doubts that there is any hard conspiracy being argued, and that there's a conspiracy of personal advantage in the sense that they've inherited a bad system and they're not going to break it. They're not going to let it be broken because they have advantage.
Fully. And what I said was I believe that it's merely a distraction, and you have to go more fundamental than just getting the goodies, becoming rich, powerful, famous.
That's really not the ambition rationally. The ambition is fairness, and the ambition is the value is distributed in some sort of rational way where you know, you're not worked to death. You're not chained to the job. You're as productive as your comfort will allow, so to speak. Yeah, maybe we should all be just working 4 hours a day, or 6 at the most, and making 3 times as much money, and that would be fair. That would be the equity that would exist if we just, you know, took an eraser and just eliminated the owners, just erased them. That's the reality we would live in.
Lots of luxury.
The monarchs are very, very expensive, and I just don't know why people can't understand that. I mean, they look at Big Ben and the whatever it's the palace, whatever it's called, and they can't figure out that that shit's expensive.
Lots of goodies. I think that in many cases, the people at the top have an extremely negative view of human existence.
I don't know. So again, he's made this. This is an argument, and this is evidence. He has this, I think, evidence that he bases on what? I think the vast majority of the wealthy are dimwits, and they don't even view reality in any sense beyond, ooh, she has a nice shit cutter. That's what they're doing. They're playboying. You think playboys walk around going, oh gee, I'm all angsty about the meaning of life? I don't think so, asshole.
They say this world is a hell, and the only thing that really can be gained out of it are things that are absolutely, unarguably tangible. Quality itself. A big house may not mean anything at the end of the day, but it's far better than having a small.
I know, well then it does mean something in the end of the day. So it's just kind of silly to say it doesn't mean anything. It does mean something if your roof leaks, or, you know, if your house is cold, and all that stuff has a consequence on your productivity. You're less productive if you catch pneumonia and you can't go to work. It's a fact.
House.
I mean, the people who get cholera, you know, the royals live up on the hill, and the dirty people live in the sewage that drips down, and they get the cholera. It's a significant reality. It's not an insignificant one. It does mean something in the end.
There was this movie that I watched a while back, a few years back, about a prisoner of war camp in the southern United States during the Civil War, which was a living hell. And it's kind of
I heard this
mirror
part.
of all prisons in all society.
Frankly, it's a little bit boring. Okay, so it's just this thing about there were prisoners taking advantage of prisoners, just like there was Jews shoving Jews into the ovens. Okay, so what? Who cares? Not really important. I mean, obviously, if somebody bribes you They could extort you into participation in a lot of ways. They could say, look, we'll not kill your wife and children if you play along. Well, then maybe you'll play along. Right? You know, there could be all kinds of things that people sell out for. And some people will sell out for something of real value, and some people will sell out for an ice cream cone. Okay, we know that. I don't think people are calling that a conspiracy. The fact that people are selfish. But who created the mechanism in first? Who wrote the extortion contracts? Those people, maybe they're conspiring.
That's how I see conspiracies. I don't think that the Pope really has a particularly enviable position in life. I wouldn't even want to.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm sure you would do the Pope job quite creatively also. We know popes don't live the lie that they've shown the public, so who knows how many little boys they have locked in the cellar of the Vatican or whatever. So what the fuck do you know about how the Pope lives or what his life is like? So right there is kind of bullshit. But anyway, we know these were kind of dysfunctional people in the first place to sign up for kind of a stupid, silly job where, yeah, I'll go walk around with smoking urns and do all this kind of weird prancing about. I mean, it's kind of a job for somebody who's pretty fucking neurotic. More neurotic than I.
Be him. In fact, the whole idea turns me off. Not
right, so I don't think when people are talking about the rich controlling and all this kind of stuff that they're really talking about popes in particular. But I'm just saying that you know, to keep talking as if there's no advantages to luxury. And the real problem is that, yeah, the advantages become neuroses for the rich. I mean, they become just silly people who are dependent on silly things. I must have fresh flowers in the house, and I must have every speck vacuumed off the rug, and there can't be a single cat hair. And they become the queen with the pea and the mattress bullshit, and you just say, well, shoot that bitch. She's just eaten too many mattresses. Well, yeah. But, yeah, okay, so what's your argument? You know, that this is a system that should exist or a system that shouldn't exist, that this is a bad thing, like heroin addicts, like the heroin addict, the gluttonous wealth addict is just as sick and damaging to our social structure a disease, and which should be cured.
Simply because I'm disgusted by Catholicism and the garbage that it peddles and the horrible corruption and all. Just in and of itself, I wouldn't want to be the Pope. Like it's.
Well, I'm just saying, if you were the Pope, I guess you could change all that, right? You could make it an honest religion again and just say, yes, it's, you know, look, there's this simple principle they discovered a while back called do unto others, have others do unto you. Yeah, nowhere does it say anything about what's in it for me. Because it's really not about you. It's about the fact that there's 7 billion human sentients on this planet right now. And there's going to be a future with a whole bunch more of these sentient humans. And there's also trillions of other sentient mammals with very emotive and passionate brain structure. Lots of consciousness going on in those organisms. And they're all trapped on this island. And it's really tough to... the rules suck. The rules don't have any... The natural rules suck. And all we can do, we just should be doing the best we can to mitigate against the unfairnesses. Oh, that's not reasonable? Things should get what they deserve. Oh, that's not reasonable? Yeah, no, it is reasonable. Profoundly reasonable. Ultimately reasonable. Absolutely reasonable. Yeah, it's absolutely reasonable to think that deserve should have something to do with it.
Not worth it for the amount of garbage I would have to do, or have to put up with.
Well, again, why would you have to? If you're the Pope, you get to write the rules, right? But yeah, you know that the hierarchy will kill you if you try to change their rules. So we know the Pope is just a figurehead for the whole instrument of the Catholic Church, which is a whole bunch of lawyers and other shitheads making big fucking huge salaries doing maliciously evil shit.
For all the work that would be involved just getting there and maintaining your position. I couldn't care less.
Yeah,
so
well, I could. Like I said, I could. So having $10 billion, I think, gives you the power to do so much good in the world. It's preposterous. You can't even... You know, I can't even describe how much fun it would be to spend the next, say, 30 years of my life, if I was to have 30 years, just figuring out creative ways to spend $10 billion. And that's the amazing thing about like these assholes, like the richest guy, you know, runs all the stock thing, whatever his name is. I mean, he's going to give it all away, but you're saying he's probably just going to do it in some uncreative way, right? He's not going to apply any rational judgment to the application of the money. $10 billion, I can start a whole bunch of not-for-profit industry and give people real choices. I can give you an insurance company that's not going to pay a lizard an outrageous salary. You know, I can give you the option to buy from an honest business rather than one that's dishonest, and one's owned by people going, what's in it for me, as the owners, aren't going to be honest. Fact.
Yeah, that there's people who are benefiting from, in the conspiratorial view of society, I don't believe that there are people up there who are benefiting from it all. In a way.
I mean, just to say that they're not conspiring in the sense that they do not pay for think tanks that are going to provide social justice. They do not provide the funds for anything that's going to do anything to damage their capitalist hold on the universe. Again, this whole Google bullshit, like it was supposed to be this fun, little, happy, friendly thing that's there just to help everybody. And that's not what it fucking is.
That it's any different from the way everybody else is benefiting or not benefiting from human existence. And I see this as sort of a mutually dependent series of scapegoats and conspiracies.
Yeah, right. There's scapegoats and conspiracies, and just pretend that your son isn't going to be on one end of that scale. He's either going to be the prey or he's going to be the predator. And you can pretend it's going to be some other way, but that's the way it's going to be. So you're either going to be proud of your son because he's a very good exploitanist, or you're going to be pitifully sorrowful for how he gets exploited. But those are your choices, asshole. That's what you've subjected him to. And you think he's going to, well, no, he'll be like me. He'll be just wishy-washy about the whole living adventure. And, you know, he won't feel too much. So it won't matter what happens. And he'll go to dangerous places and feel all proud of himself because he didn't actually get a disease or didn't actually get murdered. He'll behave like an asshole who's proud of the fact that they got lucky. Shit.
Conspiracies. The herd requires the wolf in order to make sense out of its own existence, because existence itself, per Zopfe and per Plato.
Well, it's not the only advantage to the herd, okay? It's not, the herd doesn't have an advantage just in the sense that it makes predation, focuses it on the sick and the weak that you put on your periphery. But it also has advantages in terms of resource sustaining and other kinds of things like that, because you're not shitting in your own food, or you're not, you know, that kind of thing. So it has other advantages, herding.
Oh, and per the Bhagavad Gita and per a number of other things, can be so confusing and so horrifying and so overwhelming that it can drive you out of your mind.
I mean, says you, bibble babbly boo. I mean, this whole fucking crap about, well, gee, if you think you could go crazy. Yeah, and another reason to say, why are you having a kid then? Because if he does any hard thinking, he might go crazy. Oh, another charming thing you've imposed.
Just existence itself. My previous video was about existential panic. Existential panic itself is, it's the distilled essence of horror.
Right, so the real horror is not the fact that something's broken, it's that I'm upset that it's broken. No, the real horror is that it's broken. The real horror is that there's victims, that deserve has nothing to do with it, that the risks are insane, that deserve has nothing to do with it. Those are the real horrors. The fact that it bothers me, okay, emotionally, to live in such a shitty world, that's meaningful, but it's not nearly as meaningful as the horror.
horror in life and horror at life. No amount of Cadillacs or Kim Kardashians on your elbow or anything like that is going to change that. Everything that you want, but existential panic is waiting.
Right, he's saying it's waiting for everyone. It doesn't wait for anyone. It's, again, this argument that somehow, people bang into this existential panic or something in any more real way than, oh yeah, well that sucks. Nothing you can do about it, right? The world's broken. Oh, okay. So that's the attitude, okay? People don't take it as a responsibility to do anything about it. You even suggest, hey, people should procreate less. And somebody left a comment, I deleted it because it's just too damn stupid. They're, oh, as much as the horrors of the world bother me, it bothers me more that people would say something nasty about having babies. And you're just like, well, are you insane? I mean, it's like 1 in 1,000 people in the first place. It's a tiny minority of human population spending any time arguing this point, and you're comparing it to all the horrors of life. I mean, you can't get, I mean, it's just that people are, see, and that's a lousy proof. And somehow, but this shit works on you retards. Because you're retards. You're stupid. You people are just fucking stupid. You're talking way above your skill level. You're no good at this thinking thing. And you ought to just admit you're retarded, and therefore you shouldn't vote, you shouldn't open your fucking gob, because most of the shit that comes out of it is absolute crap.
Right there for you. Again, Zombie and Plato. The simile of the cave and the last Messiah.
Blah, blah, blah. Nobody worries about any of this shit until the bullet actually enters their abdomen, and then, oh shit, I'm shot, I have to do something about it. That's when they existentially angst. They pretend it's not going to happen until it happens. Fact.
Fear at the base of everything. Or fear, among other things, at the base of everything.
And it does that with this glee. Do you see the glee? See the fear? I love the fear. He really is a sadistic fuck.
How do we deal with the horror of existence? Or
whatever. Again, the horror you mock. You just fucking mock it. You have no respect for it. I mean, I just can't say how much you deserve to have to, to choke in it hard.
At least the horror that is at the heart of existence, or that aspect of the heart of existence that is distilled essence of horror. Well,
again, again, the word didn't mean anything to him, the word horror, quite obviously, because he just gleefully talks about how you recklessly, with reckless abandon, you just accept it. You walk it, you throw something into it. You create something and throw it into the horror.
Somebody else. We can't. Existential panic isn't.
I mean, it's just too stupid. I mean, I could go through the example of the birds that there's more than one I found out. It's not just cuckoo birds that go into a nest, kick out the regular eggs, put their eggs in, and then take off, and haha, fooled you. So just as a thing, it's just such a cheat and an unfairness, and just all he's saying is, so what? That's the way it is. We don't have to change any of that. Again, if he was a Tyrannosaurus, he'd feel no obligation to modify his behavior to conform to his understanding that it's probably wrong to rip things to pieces while they're alive.
Something that you can actually say is caused by this, that, or the other. It's just pure distilled essence of panic at existence itself. But
I just think you can't. You just can't. I don't know what to say. The guy talks about horror and panic, and he does it with this moronic smile on his face. And I'm supposed to believe you have some sincere knowledge or appreciation for what that means, what hard suffering is like.
Amorphous fear, with a fear that you can tack onto somebody else or something else. So let's say I'm using the anti-Semitic metaphor. I can say, Life would be good. I'm horrified with my existence, but I wouldn't be horrified if it wasn't for those people over there. And by this...
Oh, I really think this is the lamest of examples. I really don't think anybody says it would solve all our problems if we just got rid of them Jews. But whatever. Maybe there's some imbecile who thinks everything will be perfect then. But yeah, they're an imbecile.
Same token, this is kind of, as I say, it's all...
But it is true that if I could snap my fingers and I could make the top wealthiest 1% of human beings, so 1 in 100, snap my fingers and they're just gone, and all their resources go back to being owned by the federal government of some kind. We the people, they go into the tax coffers, and it all goes back on the market to be sold, which means the prices go way down. Yeah, everybody wins. Industry can still run. There's still managers. There's still everybody's there. We can still produce. We can still do all this stuff, and we just don't got to pay them anymore. So it's a huge win. So it's not scapegoating to say, oh, you mean I have twice as much value or 3 times more value to my money? I could buy 3 times more coffee and 3 times, everything's on sale. 3 for, the price of 1. Everything. We just have a day. All of a sudden I snap my fingers and everything is on sale for ever. 3 for $1. I mean 3 for the price of 1.
It's the symbiosis of horror here. Because, you can look at it from the point of view, say, of the Jewish
there's real bad stuff in the world, and to pretend it's not there, and to keep using examples where bigots will, contrive stuff. There's real arguments to be made about the fact that, Jews had lots of good principles, and they became, they took pride in being industrious. And so they became scientists and this and this, and they became lots of good things, doctors and other kinds of things. And they also became money-grubbing, banking whores. And so, yes, there was a higher percentage of them that excelled because they had principles that sort of obligated them to excel. I mean, unlike Christians, they didn't want to be bums. I mean, Jesus was a bum, okay? Jesus didn't believe in owning a house or doing any work or any of that shit. He just believed in going door to door and saying, you got some bread and a couch I can sleep on?
Actually feeling the same existential horror, the same existential panic as everybody else is. But they can say, the herd over there is going to come and kill us all at any given moment. Therefore, our existence, because of that, our existence is one long panic.
No, but I mean, the slavery is real. I mean, to just keep talking like the slave's life was just as good as the master's life, that sitting in to having a little black kid fan you all day, right, with a fan, and you're getting this nice constant breeze wherever you go, nice little fluffy breeze, that somehow he's having just as good a time as you. I don't think so.
That kind of thinking is often evident in any small minority, and a small minority that tends to be a little bit more affluent than the other, or perceived as a little bit more powerful than the average. But again, it's a mutually sort of dependent series of fears. I fear existence, therefore I...
Well, again, so now you're just talking about it's all kind of irrational, and it's not irrational. These are rational identifying of problems. And yes, the problem isn't being Jewish, the problem is being greedy. I mean, the two don't have to go together. They really don't.
Pack my fear onto the Jews. A Jewish person fears his own existence, but he can sublimate that fear into the rational fear of anti-Semitism. So everybody is dodging the question.
Well, fear of what? Not being liked?
And they're tacking their fears onto other things. This is what I believe is that ultimately at the bottom of conspiracy theories.
Right, so it's all scapegoating. There's no real problems in the world. Everything's just fucking fine, so don't worry about it. Be happy, like asshole. Yeah, sign up for more work. Yeah, working all the time is good.
It's simply a way of making sense of a completely nebulous and amorphous terror that lies at the center of...
Yeah, no, you're just rationalizing your own decisions, and your own taking. Your own I did the what's in it for me thing and found a wonderful balance. Well, most people can't live in your balance.
Everything. And again, I keep saying this. It lies at the center of everything, yes, but it's not the only thing that lies at the center of everything. There's all kinds of other stuff there as well.
Whatever that means. So the center is everything. Yeah, right. That's rational. See, I mean, he just keeps saying this shit, and you're just saying that's not even a... I mean, you can't even... That's not even close to a reasonable cliche. This is at the center, but everything else is at the center too. Because the center is a really crowded place, because the center has nothing to do with being the center.
Now, one of the interesting things is that almost...
Oh, fuck it. Oh, alright, we'll do another 60 seconds.
The entire, in my view, almost the entire sort of thrust of all philosophies is how do we deal with that horror?
No, how do we do, is this, number one, is this fixable? And number two, even if we fix whatever we can fix, what we've identified as fixed, is what we have then still going to be adequate to say it's worth it, or it's okay, it's permittable, there's a permittable rape, a permittable amount of rape is going to take place for our profit. We're going to build our road with a permittable amount of dead soldiery in it. There's a permittable number of skulls. That'll be the definition. That's it. That's all we're doing here. Fuckhead. And you assholes have a very insane definition of acceptable. You find it quite acceptable to be quite Mangalesque in your conduct in the world.
We deal with suffering, pain, agony, that kind of thing. How do we cope with that? All philosophy. Or how do we cope with it? How do we end it even, maybe?
Yeah, well, the point is we have to do something with it besides talk about it and wash it away. Whitewashing is not going to fix it. So pretending there's no difference between poverty, not getting paid for work, and getting overpaid for work. There is a difference. There is a problem there. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. Anyway, I mean, no point. So anyway, yeah, I just, I mean, I know, I don't know it actually. I mean, when you really think about the world and 7 billion people, and maybe a few hundred people paying attention to these conversations in the world of 7 billion people. And then you think about how many of them are paying attention in any kind of like, oh yeah, I get that, kind of way. And it's just so dismal. The superficiality of people's existence, and the fact that they're just so caught up in all the lie narratives of we're purposeful and it's okay to be selfish. Greed is good. Those ideas just live inside of people, and they think that's something, especially their greed. I mean, other people's greed isn't too good, but their greed is cool. It's very productive greed. So anyway, fuck it. Ugh, yeah. It's, I hate this planet. Yeah.